First, online learning means that the process how the teacher and the students take and give the information, the knowledge, the attitude, all the things that happen actually basically happen in the class, but it can happen or it can be delivered every time and everywhere, and it should be connected with the internet, right? Panels, let's do realize that when we talk about online learning, we will know how big the impact of results coming from the online learning. Under OG, we believe that online learning technology will bring more harm than good. Under OG, I would like to justify and strengthen why actually this our mechanism and our argument, and I would like to portray how actually this will affect the students and bring more harm than good. First, when we talk about online learning and technology, let's think about availability, ladies and gentlemen. Educators, first is about availability. When we talk about availability, in our country, Indonesia is developing country. In this case, that Indonesia is very diverse. Indonesia has so many areas, has so many regions that not all area can connect with the internet, ladies and gentlemen. How diverse, how large it is, and we think about the effectiveness of this time, ladies and gentlemen. It is possible to carry out the learning process when there's no technology, ladies and gentlemen. Although all you say that our world has the progressivity, let's have a better analysis, ladies and gentlemen. That fixing the internet connection in the remote class, for example, will cost so much money for the government. Because what? The government need to fix the tower, for example, the cable, the things that everything related to how actually the society can connect to the internet, how the students can available with the internet, how the students can access the internet properly. But panels, again, let's keep in that Indonesia is diverse, especially when we talk about developing country. Yes, many papers.
I'll just explain this. That the technology that being adopted in this current situation is only online learning and there's nothing else, because that's your orientation. Please come to this house of debate. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your eye. Again, online learning always connected with the technology, and it should be ensured by the government how online learning can be effective if there's still the region or the place where the students cannot access the internet, ladies and gentlemen. Because in our public school, let's have a better analysis and let's see the fact there are still the remote place, for example, in the backward, for example, or the things like the other remote place that still cannot connect with the internet. So I think under OG, we believe that it will bring more harm than good. So the online learning result and effectiveness of the process of learning, ladies and gentlemen. Comparatively, when we talk about the learning that carried out in the class, when the teacher delivered the material in the class, it will very, very different when the teacher explain it in online learning. Because not all the students can access the internet. How the government should fix the internet, as I have said earlier, that the government will cost a lot of money, ladies and gentlemen. Secondly, let's think about the accessibility. Are all the students can access the internet, have accessibility in the internet? Let's think about the students in junior high school or even in kindergarten. When we should carry out the online learning, will it effective, ladies and gentlemen? How can the parents control the effectiveness of the online learning, ladies and gentlemen? Because what? The online learning not only exists for the students for senior high school, for the students in higher education, but also with all the age, starting from the kindergarten or even SD, SMP, and SMA. Let's have a better analysis in that way. Third, when we talk about the attending and the students and teachers' perspective, I believe that the teachers always try to give the best way for teaching, ladies and gentlemen. But it is undeniable that not all the students can operate the technology properly. Because why, ladies and gentlemen? Because not all the teacher can deliver the material in Zoom, for example. How can they prepare the material in internet, for example, making the platform to make the effectiveness of the learning process become more running smoothly, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever imagined that not all the students and teachers can operate the online technology properly? Comparatively, when we carry out the learning process in the classroom, it will be again and again more effective, and the quality of the learning process will better and better. Fourthly, let's think about the students and the teachers' have Zoom footage that happen right now. Zoom footage that right now happen largely and also massively in our area, in our condition. Let's be realistic, ladies and gentlemen. All the things related to online technology will suppose the students to face the screen along the day. Let's have a better analysis. The students in senior high school spend 8 times a day, and they should face the screen, and this is very, very dangerous for them. They cannot see, they cannot was actually in their surrounding. They also they always facing the screen in every single day, and it will affect their health, their mental condition, and we call it Zoom fatigue. Do you know how dangerous it is, ladies and gentlemen? So on the side of the house, we believe that, and I would like to justify why actually online learning with technology will bring more harm than good, as I have mentioned earlier, that there are so many reasons why actually under OG we believe that online learning will bring more harm than good, and the process of learning again and again will not be effective. If we see about the fact what actually happened in the pandemic era, the students come to the class, come and join to the Zoom, but have you ever think that they attending real attend in the class? They only present, they only absent in the class, but they go away, they put their phone away, and so on and so forth. So it will not effective. So on the side of the house, we believe and further propose that online learning technology bring more harm than good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the speech by the Prime Minister. The figure spent time about 7:20.
Panels, before jumping further to my argument, there's some topics that I'm going to give towards the opening document. We think, at the very first place, opening document is already misunderstanding of motion. They keep blaming the people that use the technology. You need to understand, this motion is about the harm of online learning technologies, meaning that you need to blame the technologies, right? Because at the very first place, you think it is harm, right? Since the moment you're going to blame the people that use the technology, meaning that you think the people is harmed, not the technology. We think this is already misunderstood at the very first place. And second of all, they keep talking about the availability and the infrastructure. We think this is not the urgency of this debate. You need to understand that the infrastructure is not about for example, the main idea of this debate. You need to debate about the harm effect of the online learning technologies. Why this technology is going to be bad at the end of the day, or why this technology is going to be, like, for example, create any massive bad impact towards the students. And second of all, they blame the people, not the technology, not the educators, since they're going to blame the people, meaning that they don't think at the first place the technology is not harm, but the people who use technology is harm in the first place, right? This is something that is very, very bad. Before that, clarification. You need to understand that online learning technologies are not limited to Zoom or another online conference application. You need to understand there are so many online learning technology, let's say Edmodo, for example, that can give a lot of interactive learning methodology, like for example, group quizzes that is very, very fun, or something else like that. That's why we think the technology is not harm at the end of the day. It is because the use of the technology. You need to understand, since the moment that human use this technology, like for example, the moment you're going to use your mobile phone, it's going to be hard if you use that mobile phone for the bad thing, right? These technologies also be harming these people that use technologies is not going to use for the bad or the good thing. Just my setup, during the pandemic, teaching and learning process have a very limited access, right? Because people cannot interact physically, so every layer of education have to conduct at home, right? Therefore, people need to find alternative solution in order to keep maintaining the teaching and learning process happen. Since the moment, like for example, we never know the pandemic could exist again at the end of the day, right? Therefore, this online technology is very, very needed at the end of the day. Learning technology exists, like for example, Zoom and so on and so forth, thank you. During the time, online learning is still used even if the pandemic almost over, right? Why so? Two things. One, it is very helpful. Since the moment is very helpful and it's, like in this case, it is very accessible, like for example, you can just learn through your laptop or your mobile phone, for example. This is not about the Zoom, like for example, you're attending a meeting. I think that is not important at all. And second of all, this is very flexible. Where in this case, you can access, it can be accessed wherever or anywhere you want it. Second of all, it is a part of innovation. This is something that we need to understand in the first place. Education needs innovation, and online learning technology is one of the best innovation that exists in our education system that I'm going to elaborate later in my subcontent. No thanks. Since the motion think this kind of technology is harm, then the government of the house need to prove to us two things. One, since they think it is harm, meaning that they will not appreciate it as meaning that they are not going to appreciate online learning technology as innovation. They are, because they think it is harm, right? Under their side, they need to prove to us why innovation is going to be better under their side, even when the moment they are not going to use the technology. And second of all, they need to prove to us is the technology being harmed by themselves, or it is because the user, like OG keep talking in her previous page. If you say the user, meaning that the technology isn't harmed at all, but the user is the main actor why the technology is harmed, right? This is the fundamental thing that we need to understand at the very first place. Two things that I'm going to talk in my argument. One, why online learning technology is good for the better learning innovation, and second, why we should blame the user, not the technology, ladies and gentlemen. Just the first argument. Why online learning technology is good for the better learning innovation? Two things. One, more learning variety. It is, we think, since the moment we just keep learning in the classroom, there are so many boring activities, right? The teachers, students keep learning in the same place with the same feeling during the time, day by day, and it is just create more flat learning. We believe not all students and teachers currently prefer to study directly at school in the classroom. We believe there will be students or teachers that prefer to learn online since it gives opportunity to learn whenever and wherever you want, right? Like for example, you can learn in your comfort place, for example. You can learn in the cafe, for example. When in this case, the situation or the circumstances push you or motivate you to, like for example, maximize the output or the input, and the output will be better at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And teacher, yes please.
Okay, you say that it's not only always talk about the implication of the students, but we do realize that the existence of the technology can affect how actually the academic circumstances that will have the relation between students and teachers. But we always say that it's not having the implication of the students or the actors that have been involved in this area.
Alright, okay. I'm going to answer later. Teacher that we believe teacher that, like for example, the moment they're going to go outside, for example, and cannot attend the classroom, they still can use this kind of technology to teach, right? Like for example, the moment I live in Kendari, for example, and my teacher's going to Jakarta, my teacher still can teach me during the by using the Zoom, for example. This is something that the government of the house cannot afford, right? The moment that their teacher, for example, is going to outside, it's like the moment they cannot teach anymore, right? But in our side, we can afford it, and our teachers still can teach us, right? And second of all, we believe sooner or later, technology will evolve. This is something that we cannot prohibit at the first place, right? In the past, we are dreaming that we can learn only we can learn wherever or anywhere we want, right? Just by using our device. Then the technology provides it. But the moment that we are going to inhibit these technologies, meaning that we are also inhibit the innovation. Meaning that we are going to, like for example, stop the progress of our education innovation. This is something that OG government side of the house need to prove. So, gentlemen's second argument, why we should blame the user, not the technology, and also is going to answer the POI coming from the opening batch. You need to understand, this technology is just like a knife. If you use for the bad thing, it's going to be bad, right? But if you use for the good thing, it's also going to be good. Therefore, we cannot just blaming the technology simply because the technology can give impact. But you need to understand, this coming from at the first place, coming from the user. Very proud to oppose.
Okay, the leader of opposition spent time about 7 and 24. Please welcome the Deputy Prime Minister.
Yes. Already. So, my name is Vanessa Abdullah. My pronunciation Ogar, and I prefer video. I'm raising hand. So, I would like to start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Panels, we believe that we are already familiar with online learning. Of course, and after 2 years of pandemic, we have to stay at home, avoiding in-person communications. But the problem is, does online learning technology brings more benefits than its risks? Educators, as a lecturer, we know that you are struggling in online learning. The problem like students not opening the camera, students just joining the Zoom but not really listening to the lectures, and many more. The virtual presence is not enough. And what will the students get if they are not focusing on the lectures? Especially the example like when their mom told them to buy something, we know it's relatable. Learning online school is an easy thing. I mean, the lecturer will not know, like if we are reading the Zoom, closing camera and microphone and done. That's why we as the proposition of the House believe that online learning technologies brings more harm than it's good for some reason. I would like to bring the extension from my first speaker. So the first example is about the
You say that not open the camera, but you need to understand it is the student's fault, not the Zoom fault. It is the Zoom just turn off the camera by themselves, or what is it?
Okay, thank you. I will answer later on my next video. So I want to give the example from my first speaker. It is about the availability. Even if there is a pandemic, or maybe the students are out in town, there are other alternatives. Because according to the status quo, there are many schools and students which does not have the proper facility for online learning. For example, the internet quota or the gadgets. And the other thing is, the students might not be able to operate these technologies, especially students in elementary school or middle school. And sometimes the teacher is the one who does not have the capability to operate this, especially teacher for more than 50 years, for example, but not all of us. And then I want to bring the exception like the Zoom fatigue. Imagine 8 hours of online learning, sitting in front of gadgets all day. You will experience like Zoom fatigue, back pain because of blue light exposure. So I would like to respond the arguments from the opposition side of the House. The first is we are not blaming the people. We're mentioning the impact of technology to the vulnerable actors, the students and the teacher, both of them. And I would like to ask, what is your reasoning in accusing us for blaming the people? You mentioned that the technology is not only Zoom, but interactive learning. And I missed the point about how can we make sure that this media of technology is interactive at the very first place. You are also mentioning about we can learn everywhere and anywhere. But this is backlashes because you said at the very first place that attending Zoom is not important. It is more important to use interactive learning media, so it's backlashes. And you are also mentioning that glorifying about interactive learning and only the good side of technologies without thinking about the problem that we brought earlier, attending Zoom and etc. Innovation is really needed, but we are focused more on the effectiveness of the learning process. You also mentioning about the learning variety. Offline class also have that variety. I mean, we have a lot of various learning media in offline class. For example, using video, presentations, and many more. So, and then I would like to move on to my arguments. So, the first arguments, why we think and believe that online technology brings more harm than it's good. The first one is internet connection problem. This is becoming the most and often reason why our students not attending the class. Imagine when you call them and they don't respond. They'll be likely to answer that, sorry, my connection is bad. But actually, does their connection is really bad? Okay, let's assume it is. There is justifications because Indonesia is one of the countries which has the slowest internet among other Asian countries. And I believe that you know IndiHome, right? IndiHome is one of the most popular internet provider, and or for another reason maybe like flooding or storm destroying the electricity. Because Indonesia is one of tropical country which has extreme weather, and sometimes the signal will go on during the rain. So that's why the online learning will have the connection problem. And the second one is about the quality of knowledge. Listening to the lecture offline is better than online. Why? The key is face-to-face communication. We tend to understand things better when we meet the person in life. In online classroom, students will Students will be motivated to ask questions, even if the lecturer encourages them to do so. They think that it does not have to be me if other people can do it. And they also feel like they are not being supervised because there is no eye contact. I mean, they are turning on the camera and microphone, right? So there will be no two-way communications between teacher and students. Next one is I would like to bring the mechanism instead of online learning technologies. The alternative instead of online learning technologies is of course offline classroom or hybrid classroom. And this will be more effective because the first one, if the students need direct feedback, teacher could give it. And then there will be no connection problem because there is no exchange feedback. Why this mechanism is better from online learning? Because these mechanisms also provide all the good things that exist in the online classroom. And maybe the worst case is like what I said earlier, the teacher is out of town. We can give them tasks and exercises outside of the class. We do not have to have it as a meeting. And maybe the opposite side of the house will say that students just open their camera and will listen to the lectures. But again and again, we are talking about the quality of knowledge that they are getting. So that's why we, as the President of the House, proud to propose this motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the Deputy Prime Minister. The Deputy Prime Minister has spent time about 6 minutes and 54. Please welcome the Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Check. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, we need to understand the very first core of today's motion. We do not talk about how the implementation of this online learning can affect the students. Because the crucial point is on how these online learning technologies can bring more harm than good, right? We, as an opposition, really oppose this motion because why do we think so? The online learning technologies is not only about how it is going to bring harm, because at the end of the day, you cannot blame technologies, right? You cannot blame how these devices can affect you. At the end of the day, the users itself are the main actors of using this technology. So, before jumping to my substantive, I would like to talk about all the things that have been mentioned by opening government. They already bring a lot of points that's actually not relevant on today's debate. Why? The availability that they are talking about is not going to happen because why? They think and they agree that the implementation of online learning technologies, meaning that we are going to implement the online learning permanently, right? Because that is not exactly what is happening on today's debate. We debate on how these technologies can bring more harm than benefit, right? No thanks. Second, on how they talk about the parents' control and so on. Ladies and gentlemen, when you use technology, and specifically on today's age, when you use technology, you have supervisors, right? When students, for example, children,
use this technology, handphones and so on. They have teachers to watch them use this technology. So at the end of the day, on how they talk about the technologies can bring more harm, how the screen time, can be up to 10 hours and so on. That is exactly not the point, and that is exactly not relevant. We need to clarify on how this debate going, right? The implementation of online learning permanently, that is not actually the main case. We believe on how the implementation of online learning technologies is going to be alternative rather than permanently. On why? For example, the Zoom meeting that they are talking about on how we are going to use the Zoom meeting every minute and every second on the learning and education and maybe in the class, right? But we believe on opposition side, these technologies can be an alternative. As the leader already talked to you on how when a teacher is going to out of the town, they can use the Zoom to actually do the class, right? They continue to do so because why? They can have the alternative to do so. It is not because they want to do the class online, because it is online learning, but because these technologies are very much capable to do so, and very much can cater to all the problems that's happening on our school. I think the second clarification is about how these mechanisms are going to work, right? We talk about how these online learning technologies happen because how the COVID-19 era, right? But we need to remember at the end of the day, when the same thing happened again, when the same pandemic happened again, well, right? OG talk about how the implementation of online technologies are not going to be used because they are harmful, right? Yes, their points are very much not relevant because at the end of the day, if the same case happened again, if the same COVID-19 happened again, you can still use these online learning technologies. Rather than having to say that they are very much harmful, they are very much beneficial for humanity, right? So jumping to my substantive phase, two questions that are going to bring. Why online learning technologies bring much more benefit rather than being harmful? Second, what benefits that this student will have, right? First thing first, why online learning technologies can bring much more benefits rather than being harmful. Two layers, ladies and gentlemen: technological development and second, human resources, human nature. First thing first, the progressive society, even people above 50, maybe or grandmas, and maybe of the judges in front of me, have those technologies, right? The essence of technologies is devised to help human activities. There are many more advantages around us than we think. We sit on the chair, that is a technology. They help us to actually do our activities. Secondly, the novelty of technology is always going to happen whether we like it or not. Our progressive society already proved to you on how this technology are going to be innovative at the end of the day. You cannot judge on how the implementation of online learning technology can be much more harmful, right? Because at the end of the day, those technologies are going to be used in the future, and maybe not now, but they are going to be used in the future. Specifically, on the status quo on how this technology used, right? Like online learning activities and COVID-19 that I already mentioned before. So before we already have online activities, rather than open a Facebook, open an Instagram, it is already technology. How you determine the technology is bad? Because we think that the user itself that are very much the main actor, right? So in an educational context, we have Zoom, Google Meet, many more technologies, and everybody are fine with it. At the end of the day, what proved to you is how this human nature, right? Human is very much intelligent being, ladies and gentlemen. They are always going to innovate, whether we like it or not, even if those technologies is very much reachable, and they are going to adapt at the end of the day. We think that maybe 10 years before, we think we cannot use those smartphones because we think that, oh, that's very much technology, they're going to bring harm to us. But at the end of the day, those same technologies at the very first this time, you can use it, right? Because why? That is the human nature. They can adapt, and they always going to be a progressive being, right? So jumping to my second substantive on what benefits we will have. This actually the extension of my leader. That two layers, ladies and gentlemen. How about we're going to talk about the efficiency, and second is progressivity, creativity, and innovation. So the efficiency. So as my leader already talked about to you on how we're going to implement the online learning technologies, is very much can bring more benefit on how they become a learning for fun, right? They can be done everywhere and anywhere. We can also use this to save nature online. We can use to collect or how do paper and so on. They can use it PDF, right? At the end of the day, this nature can be saved. The progressivity, and we are going to go to how the progressive creativity innovation happen at the end of the day. Very much to close.
Okay, thank you for the detail of your position. We have spent time about 7 minutes and 26 seconds. The next is please welcome the member of government.
Pasti. Angkanya pasti. Tidak mengira-ngira.
Yes. Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing that we need to remember from this motion is that the one thing that is being talked about is the online learning technologies, and the opening government, even though they already mentioned that the technologies are all like integrated within the online learning, but they only expand it onto the user itself. They don't bring much more extension argument regarding how it is impacting the nation, the country, the economy, and like how the government can regulate that online learning technologies to everyone so that everyone could see. Okay, but yeah, before I jump to my argument, let's see how the opposition respond to this case. They bring this case as if that online learning technologies is accessible for everyone. They think that online learning technology is everyone can use it. Everyone from low middle class, that mindset that everyone is intelligent enough, everyone is like could afford that, could use that technology. When in reality, every nation is different. There's a nation who can afford it, and there's a nation who cannot afford it. Especially when we're talking about low-level economic nations such as Indonesia, and therefore many people in Indonesia could not afford it, not even the user itself, and also the technology. And that is why, from our side of the house, we bring this case into something that is more relevant, which is the economic side. Okay, first and foremost reason, online learning technologies brings more harm than good because it is just unsustainable. When you want to use online learning technology, it means that you have to keep upgrading it, because just like the opposition said, that the online learning technologies is used because there's progressiveness, which when there's progressive means that you have to upgrade and upgrade more. And related to that low-level country, they just could not compete with other nations who could use that online learning technology, meaning that the learning itself is actually ineffective. Because first we have to know that it exists because there's the two actors that are involved in this. First, it is the nation itself. When we're talking about that, this only applies the benefits of online learning and how it brings more good. It's only relevant to the nation that could provide it, such as let's say the US, etc., that have that infrastructure and that budget. But what about the low economic countries such as India, Indonesia, etc.? When they could not use that, how will the learning be implemented? How will the students get the education when education is the one thing that's supposed to be needed for everyone? So first that is from the nation and the government itself, the budget that is needed. And then second, how about the user? How about the student? And especially how about those who cannot afford it, like their parents, when they want to, like the opening opposition said that it is used for like the alternative, especially in the pandemic. But one thing that we need to underline is that when you hit the pandemic, the economic disturbance exists, and therefore when yeah, it's going to reflect back to the economic states. And how about that low level economic state? Even not only low level, but also the upper middle economy, because everyone is impacted, and then therefore reflecting this back to that online learning technology when the economic disturbance hits, it will lead that not everyone could afford it. And then the opening opposition said that online learning could bring like more innovation, which means like it means that the education that emerges from that like is better. But one thing that we need to understand is that yes, it is innovative and etc. But how will you make sure that the quality is like good when in reality there's like innovation like Zoom or even like Coursera and etc. And there's a lot of students that even though they get that, they still not it's not as impactful for them simply because that many people are like still silent. How could you like many people are like still not interested? Like the opening opposition did not mention how the innovation exists, but how that interest from the students to learn more from that online technology because of that innovation could also increase as well, and also like the quality. Coming to the second argument is that when it is unsustainable, meaning that you need like a lot of like maintenance regarding that online technology, which is going to create like coming back to the economic state of like that nation and stuff. With yes. Yeah.
So, in your previous speech, you already blamed the human, and next you blame the nation, right? So you need to prove on how the technology itself can be blamed.
One thing to understand is that you also bring that like pandemic, right? But like we know that pandemic like hit the economic, and then not because of that, not everyone could like use that online learning technologies, which means that they could not get the education. So it's how we could prove that is because of that that people who cannot use that online learning technology, meaning there's no online learning. Okay, and second, coming back to the maintenance, when you are like the fund itself from the government because of that low-level economic nation does not exist and could not cover the technology that is needed for that online learning. How could the online learning technologies be like used for the long term? Simply, especially when we're talking about like developing nations, how could the government provide that laptop? How could the government provide that internet when we know that there's many people who don't get the help from the government, especially during the pandemic era, and like relating that to the economic, which means that this online learning technologies like brings harm. And then like how could the people who use that online learning to do that learn, especially like the low class, could actually learn because there's no help from themselves, like they have economic problem, they could not afford that online learning technologies, and then like they also could not sustain that in the long term because online learning requires a lot more internet data, like a great device, and etc. I hope my speech.
Thank you for the speech by the member of government. The member of government has spent time about Stefan Anthony. Please welcome the member of opposition.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everybody. I'm Lada Amira Fabiani as the member of opposition of the House. Our motion today is this House believe that online learning technology bring more harm than good. Honorable educators and honorable audience, When we're talking about technology bring more harm than good, that means there is a problematic that happened because the online learning process. Honorable educators and honorable audience, when we're talking about this case, that means the online learning technology will be thrown back. That is the question right now: is the online learning technology bring we throw back for and make we stop to learning? The answer is not. And what the impact so seriously for the learning process actually? Actually nothing. Nothing, something that is very important that happening because the online learning technology. That means this motion today is we get with the motion today as the opposition side. So, honorable educators and honorable audience, we have a 2 point here, one bring in my speech. For the first is, which one harm come from in this case? That's mean where the site that said online learning technology bring more harm than good. Actually, there is nothing reason it's good and bring us belief that is online learning technology bring more harm than good. Actually, in this era, we're living in a busy modern life. In this busy modern life, there is a lot of things that can do. So for this technology, that's mean in learning technology that help us as the human who living in busy modern lives, This is one way to help a lot of humans in this world. So, and then the second is the technology, the online learning technology, actually the interaction with the technology. Human right now, the generation was side by side with the technology. We using technology, we know the technology, and we use technology, and until right now, we're using technology. And let's imagine what happened in Indonesia when due to pandemic come to Indonesia when we're not using the technology. What that means we need to stop our learning process because we cannot using the technology. The answer is not. This is a way from help the human, a lot of human in this world to doing the process of the learning process. So honorable educators and honorable audience, like I said before, this is interactions, it's a good interaction for human to take the part for learn as good as they can. How many trouble that come to the student, the human, but they still is able to getting the learning process that when they need to learning together with technology, actually this is their opportunity. No, there is some harm things that there's process. This learning process is a good learning process for a lot of human and student in this world, especially in our nation. When we're talking about the trouble is the connection, internet connection, about this is development country. You should to know development country. We need to focus how to increase our nation, how to increase our country, so that we cannot just and giving seriously said that this is Indonesia is a development country, so we give the limitations for our country. That means bring the faith or bring the statement that only learning technology bring more harm than good. Actually, it's not. There is a bigger reason. There is no good reason. There is no evidence that show us. And nowadays we still using the technology. So, honorable educators and honorable audience, the government blame said that the technology is not benefit because they said that it's harm. That's why it's not benefit. Let's see right now how near what technology gives a lot of benefit for the young generation of Indonesia. We know about a lot of things. Let's imagine what happened if the online learning technology is we not come and get it together the learning process by using the online learning technology. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a good point that when online learning technology actually is a good access for people learning, like I said in this my first speech, this is we living in a busy modern life. So this is good access for people learning in this era. Honorable educators and honorable audience. When the government talking about equality, when government talking about equality, quality of the knowledge, actually the quality of the knowledge is not happening, or this will become important because the online learning process. It's because of online learning technology that the quality of knowledge actually that is be happening because the learning process, not online learning technology. That's mean the quality of technology actually that is not some impact because of learning process. That is the subjective point that people can know, should to know about it. Honorable educators and honorable audience, there is some point that I will talk about. You are here, and we learn to development technology, and technology help us as a human to learn. So, as my responsibility, I have provided the opposition perspective related to these motions based on the argument and rational solutions, that we oppositions propose. Considering the fact, we ask the opposition approve to against the motion. So I say thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for the speech by the opposition. The opposition has spent time about separation for the select the government whip.
Start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So panels, as the motion today, this House believes that online learning technology brings more harm than good, and we as the closing government team really believe that the online learning technology brings more harm than good. And what I want to show you, first of all, the open government failed to compare the issues that has been explained in this debate. They didn't compare on the technology harms and the good. They only show the user's fatal fault that has been highlighted by the opposition team. And then they didn't have depth analysis on their arguments, exactly on their availability argument. They said that the technology has less access in some areas, but let me explain it more. In these areas called 3T, it has many problems in technology use. First of all, the signal. The signal in every region or every area, especially in this area, is low and cannot be affordable and cannot be reached by the government itself. So it will be more harm to use this technology learning process in this kind of area. And then there are different quota prices that couldn't be solved by the government itself. It increased the reasons why this brings more harm, and then the learning importance. They keep talking about the availability and the technology harms on the user, but they didn't consider about our important actor in here, students. They didn't consider the learning process importance of them. And then let me expand more harm that caused by the technology, especially in the health. They said Zoom ethic may be one of the reasons of why the technology brings more harm than good. But we can believe that, as the opposition team have said, that we are not using this permanently, but we could say that this disease of carpal tunnel syndrome could not be avoided by the students because of what? Because most of them are using their time to touch their gadget, to use their technologies in their life, not only in their life, but their education. So it means that using technologies mainly or majorly in our life, especially our education, which have more time using it, it brings this carpal tunnel syndrome disease. It is where we cannot move our fingers for a short time. And then the Deputy Prime Minister also said there are learning variety. but they didn't give a depth analysis and only give less examples such as presentation. And then I will expand it more. Learning variety, or we could find it in Douglas Brown book. When we teach in any material, there are so many cases and so many solutions when we are to use this face-to-face or online without using any technology. We could kindly set up the technology without inserting it. We could successfully use these terms that been used by Douglas Brown, such as the translation method, the total physical response method, and etc. And then they also said the internet connection problem that being caused. But I really believe the technology problem caused. They said the example as a storm. It is an external factor, external problem that caused by the weather, not the technology itself. And then they said that the students will be demotivated, but they didn't give us more analysis about that, so I will give it to you. The technology made the students distracted because of that. They will be demotivated. They will be not paying more attention to their teacher because of this. Because of what? What they see on the screen we cannot, as a teacher, we cannot see them. We cannot see what they're doing. So this is why when technology is inserted in the learning process, we could say it will bring more harm than good. Then the opposition teams always standing on their stance. Well, the innovation is everything. They are intending to increase their innovation without thinking the education quality that have been our interest at first. They said that the flexible, that it can be accessed everywhere, but they only said that there are no further any example. But of course, in our without any technology involved in our learning process, we could also access anywhere, such as we could use books, or we could use mini dictionaries and other things that doesn't have any involved with technology. And then the government team always said that there is the innovation to be a better individual, to be a better human, but there are no depth analysis on the education quality. They only taught the innovation, but they didn't say the actor and how to ensure the teacher to know exactly the problem of using technology in learning process. And then I would like to expand my speaker's arguments. There are so many ineffectivity in using technology in the learning process. First of all, we have said that the opposition team said that progress need more upgradable devices. That means it will be burden more on the government, on the actor, on the students, on their parents, on their teacher to upgrade more and more to it. Then it will cost more for them. We believe that in this kind of way, in improving the teaching, and the technology is not the main problem here. We need to improve the education quality of the student itself by not inserting any technology in it. And then we truly believe that we have shown you the opposite team weaknesses and the opening lack of burden proof. And we have shown you that the depth analysis, and our conclusion is we truly believe that online technology bring more harm than good. I close my case. Thank you.
Spend time on 7 and 10. Please welcome the opposition whip.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the past millennia, we used something to document our learning process called papier. It's an old-fashioned paper. In a couple of millennia, we have this called paper. We use this to document our learning process. In a couple of millennia, we have cell phone, like what Ms. Melda using to learn the process. And now, like what Mr. Baharudin have, we have tablet in order to help our learning process. And if questions appear, Mr. Baharudin, with all due respect, would you use old-fashioned paper or tablet or cell phone to have the learning process? Of course, the most advanced technology. It's proof what? We learn to develop technologies, and technologies help us to learn. That's the connections between technologies and learning process. That the opposition that both are opening, I'm expecting to say that, but no, I don't. Now, to begin our speech, first of all, I must salutation, respect, and dignity to a very objective panel of educator, Sir Eko, Sir Baharudin, Ms. Monica, and two charming timekeeper that we have tonight, such like the house debate. My roommates, Mr. Ren, my comrades, Ms. Melda, and every party in this house of debate. To begin with, I will aiming every problematic idea that comes from every party in this house of debate. The first one, OG, Miss, with all due respect, you mentioned that about online learning that decrease some value. My question is very simple. Does it still goes along or only during the pandemic sessions? My problem, when we can meet face to face, shall we use online Zoom learning, or we can state it very simply, which means that they fail to identify the use of technology as the same case with the leader of oppositions, which they do not state the simple definition of technology. What is? Are they so afraid to say that? The essence of technology is very simple, ladies and gentlemen. It is the tools for help human to get things more simple. Tools to help human in more simple applications. And the problem is, when we can do things more simple, shall we use Zoom meeting to complicate it? Of course not. It's what the oppositions, the government failed to identify. Now, the leader of oppositions bring us a very subjective perspective relating to focusing on the user. While our proposal now will give the extensions of Ms. Melda's brilliant proposal, will be relating the education goes along with the technology. That was our approachment, our style in this house of debate. And then what comes from the CG is they keep repeating all of their gains related to see about this. People who cannot operate technology. With all due respect, I have a simple question, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, they mentioning about people who can operate technology. My question is that we should begging the technology to go back so we could use it, or we educate the people to go so long? Because that was the essence of technology, as I mentioned before. We learn to develop technology, and technology help us to learn. Before I continue, any point of interruptions? Point of interruptions? Oppositions? Government? Okay, I shall continue to our proposal. Ladies and gentlemen, with all due respect and honor, we believe that education goes along with technologies. That technology itself that brings education to this level. For example, Ms. Baharudin, Sir Eko, and Ms. Monica, in the past, our benchmark to say someone is brilliant is based on how many books they read. But ladies and gentlemen, as Ms. Melda key points, millennials, modern world, how smart us, the millennials, doesn't dictated by how many books we read, but it can be dictated how many podcasts that we listen, how many YouTube videos that we watch. It's mean that the technology have evolved. Why we have to use? But yes, please, Mr. Dean.
How would you approach student beyond this learning time? For example, replacing offline class with Zoom class, and then the student left the class and.
Okay, Mr. Dean, I got it. Mr. Dean, during the pandemic era, we using Zoom for 3 semesters. Imagine, Mr. Dean, if there is no Zoom at all, which we cannot go to school. It's mean what? In Indonesia, we left behind 1.5 years if there is no online learning. Thank you very much, Mr. Dean. Any point of interruptions, Miss? Okay, I shall continue. Now, the issues that perhaps dictated to these technologies about the people who lazy to learn. My question is that simple. Once in a moment, when I'm quite lazy to learn, I ever asking about myself, is that my phone who made me lazy to learn, or it's me who refuse to go to take my cell phones and start grinding and start learning? It is not because the technology is in person. I'm sorry. It's not the technology as the object. It's about us, the subjective factor of human who do not develop, who do not use the technology as how it's supposed to be. As I mentioned before, the goal of technology is to help human, not to complicate. It's that technologies. If it's made us to be more complicated, with all respect, it's not technologies. It's what we call it phenomenologies. That's the essence. Now, to the extension of Ms. Melda's proposal, it's relating to the study case that proving us. To this very moment, technology has, we have learned to develop technology, and technology help us learn. As I mentioned before, in this present, before we get to this final, we eventually held our learning, our debate parliamentary using Zoom meeting, which means that this technology have proved us not only in debating process that, and learning process that in a very first level, but also in advanced level, like competing and so on. It's helping us in a lot of factors. And what's so interesting and astonishing claims comes from the leader of oppositions. It stated that, hang on. It's come from the opposing government that they mentioned the pandemic only hit the economy. With all due respect, as I mentioned before again, is that during the pandemic process, if there is no technologies, like I mentioned before, Zoom meeting, we will left behind 1.5 years. That's why I want to highlight once again, also as our, to make our proposal more stronger. I've come to the very last of my words. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that we, as the opposition side of the house, we have the duty to prove that. Yes, yes.
The simplification of online learning technology is not only can be seen on a little side of what you have mentioned earlier, but also a broad side that I think there's so many society that still cannot achieve the usage of the technology itself because of they have the amount of accessibility.
Okay. In simplification, we say these issues like online learning process that have issues with technology, with the cable, the internet, and so on. My response to that, I don't against that. Eventually, that's the only thing they correct about it. Eventually, I agree with that. We're supposed not eventually, let's say, be sad for that. We're supposed to embrace that more because, as I mentioned before, this technology has helped us to this very big advancement of technology. Things like internet issues supposed to be fixed. We're supposed not to be worried about it. It's supposed to be fixed. That's supposed to be the thing that government is supposed to consider. That's the real issues. That's the real problem right now in the very current moment. Now I've come to the very last of my words, ladies and gentlemen. I am the objective adjudicator. Thank you very much for listening to my speech. The tipping point in the end of the day is that the technology goals is to simplify, not to make complicated. Not to make human life complicated. To make human life more efficient and not more complicated, as mentioned before. And in the end of the day, what we stand for, we believe, we have faith, we learn to develop technologies, and as I mentioned, technologies help us to work. With all due respect, I close my cases. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the speech by the opposition leader.